Please stand by.
Okay, this is Sutton Conservation, and it's April 17th, 2019, and it's 7 o'clock. The first thing on the agenda is 1 Smith Road, and they have continued to May 1st, 2019. So I guess we can look at some board business. Wanda and I had been talking about having tickets printed up, because we've always used the building department ones. And so we would like to get some printed up for us. Hopefully we'll never have to use them. They would be there if we need them.
Did you bring the sample, but I don't, oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, because I didn't have it.
I have them. In conjunction with that, we had talked about going out and checking the erosion controls on people that have open orders of conditions. And so I don't know if we want to divvy those up, but if people, then we might need tickets to say to people, you need to put up your erosion controls or file for a certificate of compliance. So that was kind of the back of my mind for doing those.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Wanda, we have a list of open orders of conditions, right? Pretty much?
Yeah, I do. That's what's on your track sheet. Okay,
So-
the most recent ones from 2019.
Maybe for the next meeting, if everybody can look at them and see what's in their area, and we can just kind of split them up and
And as soon as I get my email back, I'll send you all the past 3 years of track sheets.
Okay.
yeah, Wanda thinks her computer was hitched up to the fire department and somebody hacked into it, and then today she could get no email.
Yeah, I got hacked into last week. That's why everybody on my email back 10 to 18 years has received an email from conservation. And I've had numerous amount of phone calls, so, you know, so if you get a strange email that says you owe money, delete it. And anybody else out there can do the same.
What was the subject block?
Did you reach out to a print shop on that, Joyce?
No.
We haven't yet.
Novia?
I wanted,
'Cause if you open it,
I
usually
wanted
then
to
it's
get
too
them
late. You don't wanna
approved
even
here
open it.
first, and then we'll,
I had good luck. They actually make all my
I've
slip
been getting a few
books at
those, but they keep
IBA
going
in
to my
Millbury.
spam folder.
They
Yeah,
do a good
that-
job.
Just
that's
delete 'em
where
because
they've done before,
Okay.
IBA.
Yep.
What's that?
Andy
Soon
was
to be
asking
in
if we'd reached out to
Soon
a
to be in
print
Sutton.
shop.
Yeah.
yeah.
IBA is, well, the print shop's gonna stay on River Street, but IBA Dairy's gonna be moving to Sutton.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Gilmore Drive.
Dairy?
Yeah,
In the
they make-
warehouse?
yeah, you know, they're right next to Goretti's down there.
Yeah, I used to work there.
Yeah, they're moving to Sutton.
Yeah.
Bigger facility, brand new.
Wow.
Yeah, they're adding a couple more jobs. It's good for the town, yeah.
It's great for the town.
Yep. Yep. Tax revenue. They just, what did they do the other night? Approved the TIF, I think.
Really?
Okay, anyone want to make a motion that we, the tickets printed out?
Make a motion to have enforcement order tickets printed.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
How many, when I say how many copies, I assume it'll be carbonless,
Yes,
and how many,
right,
Is
it's
it
at the
just-
bottom.
It's 25 per book.
That's probably,
you get 2 copies of 1 ticket?
No, you get
Right.
4
3
Well,
or 4.
that's
Is it
what-
4
at the
that we got?
bottom there. It says the white goes to the violator, the canary color goes to the Conservation Commission, the pink one goes to the town manager, and the gold one goes to the court, if they go that route. So there is an option to appeal a court as the third option. So if they deem that they want to go to court, then you send the other one to the
Yeah,
court.
then I have to send them in.
So there's four copies.
And yeah, when you write them out, you really gotta have a sharp pen, because you gotta go through all those copies.
Okay, the minutes, we need to table those because Wanda was sick and didn't get a chance to do them.
motion to table the minutes of April 3rd to May 1st.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We have a building department review for 169 Eight Lots Road.
That's right here. Lynn brought it up. We already have
Which lot is it?
It's the 169 lot, I'm not sure.
Yes, I printed off, Brandon sent a bunch of things,
Oh, good.
email, and I printed it off.
Yeah, I couldn't even do that, my computer is just.
Yeah, isn't it? Yeah, it's
Here's
one of
some
them.
plans here.
I think they numbered them all, though. Did they assign a number to all those, Bob?
I think they did, yeah.
It's the one closest to Jonathan Anderson's house. And when Bob was in Florida, he emailed that, there was stuff going on up there, and I went up there, this was back in January, and they had started building a house on the third lot closest to Bob's house, and they had a sign up that had what was supposedly a DEP number on it, but it wasn't a DEP number, because they had never filed with us. And so I talked to the people that were there, and they said, oh, well, the engineer or whoever it was told them this was the number, and it was the number for the Board of Health, for the septic. It wasn't a DEP number. But there's a retreat lot right here with a driveway and everything in the back here. This is the one they were building on in January. This is the one that is wet in the front, and the lady can't even access it from the road because it's a wet meadow all across the front. And that's the one, Mike, she hired you to build a house?
Well, to start the process,
To
to
start.
understand the land,
Yeah. And then
to not to build a
this
house.
169 is the one right here. Does it look like they're in our jurisdiction, Bob?
Well, the lot next to it is the one that you're talking
Right.
about, that's got the wet metals in it, so I don't know where the buffer zone is relative to that wet metals.
Is it on the other side?
The wet metals is right here.
It's 250 frontage.
No, I think that, yeah, this is the street, right? This is the lot here, I had it all flagged.
Oh, okay.
I
So
sent
it's-
everybody the plans,
The
Brandon.
one that
We
they're
went out there
asking
and taped
about
it
from
all,
planning
so-
board is right here.
Which lot?
But this has
This
got
lot
the
is
wetlands
Jonathan.
all across the front.
Oh, then this is,
Anderson lives in this
oh,
house.
oh.
This is the house next to him, the lot with the wetlands
So we
is
didn't
over
go onto
here.
this property, we stopped here, but there was a solid line here. And he said it continued onto this property.
All right, so they're gonna need.
So if there's any grade in here, they have to be 100 feet. There's no way they're not.
So the answer is yes. This should
There's
be
no
so.
way, I mean, I know, I had it flagged.
The buffer zone should encroach onto this land, which is not shown as a buffer zone on it.
Well, they should at least define their edge and show it.
Right.
Like, I know it's here, I know it's right there, I don't know where it goes and what, but I know it's there, so, and they're showing grading lines that I know is 100 feet from there, so.
Yeah, so there's order of conditions required in the
So they
buffer
need to
zone.
file.
Need to file, yeah. And there's lack of information on the drawings.
There is still, it is still flagged up there, I saw that. I was just up there.
Yeah, yeah. And we stopped at the property line, so when you see the blue flags and where they stop on the left,
Yep,
we just stopped at the property
it
line.
continues over, right.
So you
Well,
said
we didn't
this-
go on the other property, I just know that it,
Yes.
the engineer said it did.
So there's
This one's got a
insufficient
house up.
information to tell where the
This
buffer
one's
zone
got a
is?
house up.
So insufficient information, we believe that
neither
there's a
of those are
buffer
done.
zone, if not wetlands.
That's a question, this one's got a well. So-
Well, we can see the blue flags, they're right there, like, right, I mean,
Well, yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah.
we-
oh, I'm
we
sorry,
think
they're,
They should be on
they're
this
right here.
drawing.
Yeah,
They should be on this drawing.
Yeah.
We have reason to
just
believe
show it
they
says
are.
100 feet away.
Right, they might even be able to get away from it
Where
if they
does-
sneak that driveway to the left.
Yeah,
And,
they probably could.
and then they
Some of the
wouldn't have
plans I saw, yep.
If they change the plan and move the driveway to the,
Oh, there might be 100 feet, because remember, these lots are 250, and that's in the middle, so that might be 110 feet to the edge, and,
Well, you don't know that until the
Right.
buffer zone
Right.
line
Yeah.
is put on here, that's
Yeah.
all. Needs to be put on.
Okay, I put, they need to file, there isn't enough information on the plans to see where the buffer zone is.
yep, perfect.
What's the date on these drawings? This looks like they've been banging around for a while.
Upside down. 10/15/18 is when they signed on the date of it.
Okay.
What's this for 15 Prescott Road?
There's a well, looks like it's well off the road now.
Oh, you did
He drilled that
issue
already, because when I went
I
out
know
there,
this.
the order
Yeah,
conditions
yeah.
for that,
Well off the road.
but
Oh, yeah.
nobody signed.
But
I
they
think
were,
Andy's
they were
right.
bringing in the revised
Yeah,
plans?
this
He
is
might
the
be all right.
revised plans for 15, so if you
So
wanna
that
look
goes
at
with this?
15 Prescott, yeah, in the back.
But the buffer zone, even though the driveway's outside the limit, the buffer zone still has to be shown on the drawing.
So this is the revised plan we need to sign for 15 Prescott. So sign the plan.
Was this the stone drip edge one?
Yes.
You promise you get the plan right again?
Yeah, I think it did the next day, yeah.
I was just reading the
Yeah,
note.
no, yeah,
That's all.
he did it all. This.
I've got a question. Are we sponsoring a warrant at the Springtown meeting?
Basically, it was through us, but it's being sponsored by the Board of Selectmen because all of those revolving accounts go through the Board of Selectmen.
And what's the wording on it?
It's the same thing, in 2016, the law changed, and they have this chart, and it gives the limits of spending for them, so they're just doing an amendment to that article. So it's the same as in 2016 for all the revolving accounts.
Was that something that we should look at and agree to? See as
It's,
how we're supposed to be separate from the selectmen altogether in our own world over here. And the selectmen are now initiating a warrant that I haven't even seen.
it's required, so that was through Tim Harrison. So it's required that be in a different account, separate
For,
from the Wetlands Protection Act. So Tim Harrison went down to Laura, and the selectmen have already
and,
added.
I have the account number.
yeah, but I'd like to read the warrant. I would like to know what the warrant
Yeah,
says.
You have to look at that, I don't have that.
I don't have it either.
Yeah.
It's an
And-
amended, it's
I
an
don't think they
amendment.
printed them out yet.
Have they
Yeah.
have they posted them yet?
Well, somebody's written the damn thing and it deals with us, so I would think that we would have an
It has to be
opportunity.
filed by now.
Well,
The
look
it's,
at
deadlines
it.
it's
are
being
over, yeah.
filed by the Board of Selectmen. I can get a copy of it.
But we have to abide by whatever rules they happen to write in there?
It's just to set up the account,
What account?
a revolving account for
For,
Municipal filing.
for the municipal filing fees.
and the municipal filing fees are to be used as we agreed to in a meeting, which is only to be used for consultants' fees and outside engineering. and
No,
things
it's
of
to
that
be
nature.
used, it can be used for anything the Wetlands Protection Act can be used for, to administer and to enforce the Wetlands Protection Act. That's what the law says.
That's not what our bylaw says. The thing is, that's what
the law
we,
says. The general law.
Well, the spring 19
I think it's very much contrary to anything that we as a board talked about and voted on and spent 2.5 hours one night discussing. And it sounds like it's contrary to everything that we agreed to at that time.
It's the law that you have to set that up as a separate account.
We,
It's not anything to do with us, it's Mass General Law, Bob.
Mass General Law, I agree, has to be a separate account. And we agreed that the money that was gonna be collected, all right, was to be used for, as it is already written here in our bylaw, to be used only for consultants and engineering and things of this nature as required.
Well,
So now you're telling me that now this money's gonna be used for anything
Well-
that the law allows, and that's contrary to what our bylaw says, it's contrary to what we agreed to. Now, I don't know who makes these rules up or changes things after the board agrees to something.
That has nothing to do with what we,
Then
It's-
what will this money
it's-
be used for?
well, right now, the bylaw as it's written says the consultants, but the Mass General Law says that those accounts can be used for anything to administer and enforce the Wetlands Protection Act.
And our bylaw further restricts the use of that money to what we said in the bylaw.
The bylaw is in effect.
So the
We're
money,
not changing the bylaw.
the money will only be used for consultants' fees, outside engineering, and things of that nature.
If that's what the bylaw says, yeah.
Well, that's
But
what,
But the Mass General Law says you can use it for, so I guess
Can we see
Yeah.
how it has been written?
it's, yes.
apparently
it's-
we can't.
it's-
It's not,
If you look at the town report for 2016, it's the same as that. They're just
well, we don't want
amending
to
it.
see the town report for 2016. We want to see the warrant article that's now being
The warrant
presented.
article is the same as it says in the 2016. They're just amending it to add that account.
Again, for me, I would like to see a copy of the warrant article as written.
I checked with Debbie in the town clerk's office 2 weeks ago, and she pulled it out and said, yeah, it's all set to go. It's sponsored by the Board of Selectmen, and it's an amendment. So if you would like to,
Yes, I would like to see, I'm speaking
can't-
for myself as a
I
board
can't get
member.
it
I don't know
right
about the
now.
rest of the board would like to see it or not. But I would like to see it prior to the town meeting to see whether or not we as a board support that.
Right.
Considering we put a lot of time into it.
We did put a lot of time
It
into it.
hasn't been scanned in yet into the Kansas looking
Can we
for
go-
it now.
I think you're
Can we go back to this after we have people waiting? I feel bad people waiting. that
we
we're
have over-
discussing this. We can go back to it after. I don't
well. I think
Table
it's a
this,
separate-
know. Yeah, we can table this discussion till the end of the meeting.
Can I have that clipboard?
Yeah.
Here's the second one. It's a-
Okay, do I have to read this again? Let's
No,
see.
because
It's a
Make a
continue.
motion to waive the reading of 176 Manchog Road.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so you're gonna amend it, it has no DEP number, are we using the old DEP number? It's
We haven't amended anything. Right?
There was this
Right,
is,
I know you haven't, but I wrote it on there because if it's an amendment, they can use, I think they can use the old DEP number, they don't need a new one.
Didn't they just get a DEP number for this?
Yeah,
They want to amend their order of conditions is what they want to amend.
right.
So they don't need a DEP number to amend the order of conditions other than the
Yeah.
one they originally had.
this is 176.
Good evening, my name is John Federico with Gerrier and Almond, and tonight I'm representing our clients, Thomas and Brenda Staziski, on their amended order of conditions for 176 Manchog. The reasoning for the amendment to the order of conditions is just to add in a two-story deck towards the back of the house, and then also repair the existing deck that is located on the right side of the house. In addition to that, we also recently spoke with the well contractor for the site and have actually reduced the amount of pavement retaining wall that we're going to be originally proposing for the site, lessening any sort of impacts that the commission might have already had for it. I know Brandon has issued a couple of concerns regarding cantilevering the deck, and then he had some general questions with regards to the construction and everything. I'm not sure if the commission has seen those, but I'd be more than happy to really run through all of Brandon's comments for that.
Well, I just printed it off that he sent. He said it would be 18 feet from the pond's edge, and we have a 25-foot no-touch.
Yes, that is correct from my understanding.
Is there anything there pre-existing or no?
As of right now, we do have pre-existing conditions. Sorry about that. We are, if I'm not mistaken, it was like 13 feet from side yard setback for the corner of the existing house, and then that will be increased to about 8 feet. And then we do have a variance that's with ZBA in addition to the side yard for the rear yard setback. And then for that one there, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was 25 feet. We're showing it only as 14.7 right now to our proposed lot line. The physical lot line for the property is actually out in the middle of the lake. We do not have the time to go out and survey to get that actual data. But we do have a note on the plan and everything from the original plat that was done that does have the physical property line on there.
Isn't there something about lot coverage too?
For lot coverage, there's nothing that I was aware of for it. I do
Is there a
know
maximum
that,
lot coverage?
10% is what the laws, what our zoning laws are, of the lot area.
and then would that be 10% in addition to what's already there, or how does
Total.
that work?
You can ask for a variance for it. Have you already been in front of ZBA?
No, as of right now, our ZPA meeting is May 2nd, if I'm not mistaken.
You don't have your lot coverage on the plan?
I don't have it listed on this plan, but I don't have the numbers right in front of me. I'd have to go get that, send it back to the commission for it. But as of right now, though, ZBA did have at least an initial look at the plan, and then the only real variances that they brought up and asked us to make sure that we have included with our special permit is just going to be for the setbacks. And then we did discuss having the continuation of an existing nonconformity, and there wasn't any additional issues that was brought up initially with talking with ZBA on it.
I think it's 20%, not 10.
Getting back to that though, does that count for the lot that goes out into the middle of the lake? Or is it?
I don't wanna
exposed?
answer
How's
those,
that?
I don't, like, I'm, you know, like those, the engineers are the ones that are supposed to put all that information on the plans when they come in front of ZBA.
Gotcha.
It'll say what the requirements are, what the lot has. When you go to ZBA, I believe they're gonna ask for that, but just check with
Well,
Lynn.
the real issue is that we've got a policy that we do not allow
Right.
permanent construction within 25 feet of the wetlands. And, you know, that's the only time it's been, we've had one exception to that, and that was a real hardship exception, and it was only a couple of feet, not 9 feet.
And the piers were not within that 25
That's right.
feet.
Yeah, there was
It
no
was a-
physical contact.
It was a
with
real
them.
hardship.
Any way to move the
No.
footings
As
back?
far as what Brandon had noted here, I believe the variance was for 31 Carter Lane for Michael Couture.
Yep.
And then as far as the deck construction goes, he's saying that as long as it can be cantilevered with no piers that were going to be within that 25 feet, that he does not see an issue with it and would ask that the commission stays consistent with it. As far as the deck design goes, that is something that we can cantilever to make sure that there is no pylons within the.
I don't necessarily read Brandon's comments that way to begin with. However, speaking as a board member, I think that we're setting a dangerous precedent here if we allow a deck to be put on there that cantilevers closer to the water than our 25 foot for several reasons. And, you know, more importantly, this is a major lake, a major body of water that everybody wants to keep as pristine as possible. And part of the way we keep it pristine is by keeping grass up against the water as much as we can so the grass filters things out. Whenever you're putting a deck, you're just taking away from that. And I think that we should stay firm on our policy that no permanent structure within 25 feet. And that would be a permanent structure regardless of whether it's on the ground or 10 feet off the ground. And I think that we should stay firm with our policy that we've held firm to. Not recently, in the last 3 or 4 years, ever since the police station.
Do you think there's any other forms of mitigation they could do to offset that filtering effect of the, nothing that would be acceptable to you?
How big is this deck? Like, what is the, like,
Right now,
let's talk
the
about
dimensions for it are
the
gonna be,
existing house.
14 feet off the back end of the house, and then it's only gonna be about 25 feet wide with a little extra.
So we're
for,
talking, this is only a
stairs.
14-foot deck
For the most part, yes,
by the width?
and then 25 feet for the width.
Which is.
Is there room on the side there on the right? What if they, how much,
It It is something that was initially discussed that the client might at some point connect the two decks. As of right now, they're not anticipating doing that.
Yeah, I can't see from that far. This is much better.
There was another comment about what's underneath the deck.
As far as the deck goes, both floors of the deck will be wooded, none of it will be enclosed. There is a note here from Brandon asking that crushed stone could be used underneath it. That's something that we feel from at least a maintenance standpoint, it would help prevent any sort of grass or anything from going under through the deck. And as of right now, we don't have any real major concerns.
Wanda, do you have a ruler?
Is there 2 decks? Is that what you're telling me
It's a
here?
two-story deck.
2
This is a
story.
two-story deck?
In other words, there's a deck on the ground level and a deck above it.
Yes.
The grading doesn't support the deck on the bottom as it stands right now, correct?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
The grading does not support the deck on the
The
ground.
deck will be elevated for it. And then it will just
10
have
feet.
pylons or posts. foundation.
Elevated to what elevation? I mean,
Whatever the finished floor would be.
which is 521?
Roughly about 521.
Now,
Oh,
correct
wait a
me if
minute.
I'm wrong,
Stone
and help me
walls.
out here, would you? These dotted lines going across the site, they represent the existing grades?
Yes.
And if I see something that says 522, is that a foot higher than 521?
Yes, it is.
So how do we put a deck at 521 and a half, or 521 when the existing grade out there is 521 and a half without regrading something?
I mean, as of right now, there is a step down in the back to where there's a little concrete pad. So that finished floor could be a little bit higher there.
Bring it, cut it right in half.
I mean,
This makes it, in my opinion, I mean, when you're cantilevering, we're thinking that you're cantilevering a deck over the top and having stone underneath, you're not even doing that now. This is a deck that's on the ground and another one above it. And, you know, it's so contrary to our policy, it shouldn't even be discussed any further, it should just be turned down.
Right, I think that was the thing with the other deck too, is it was way up and there was lawn under it, right?
Well, it was a corner of a house, and the house was a tiny, we're
Well, I
talking
think it
about
was four-
Carrier Lane.
Or 2.5 feet over the 25, yeah, right.
And it was a tiny house, and it was a much more of a hardship than putting a deck, 2 decks here that, would say, I mean, it's,
And stormwater was mentioned here too, so what provisions for
as far
stormwater?
as stormwater
Right.
goes, the deck is
7
supposed
there.
to be wooden, so any sort of runoff that would
5.
hit the deck would be penetrating through any of the gaps in between the slats, and then that could go onto the ground and proceed on with it.
If you approximately cut it in half, ballpark, you'd be 25 feet off, and it would turn it more into like a
Yeah,
porch
right.
depth versus a deck.
As far as any sort of changes to the deck, I will have to run that by the clients for
I've
that.
just-
I know Brenda is in the audience today. I don't know if you have any input, if shortening the deck would be something you would be looking to do in that case, or how you would like to approach that.
Yeah, we would, and we could go over towards, I don't know how far, is there a limit to how close you can go to the next property line? I mean, the width.
As far as that goes, right now, at our closest point, we're gonna be at the 7.5 feet, so I believe, at least from a ZBA standpoint, we should be able to make that change without having any adverse impacts on their end. I'm not sure if the commission has anything for side yard setbacks, or if you're concerned we're gonna be over the lake portion of it.
so what are you suggesting, that they reduce the size of the deck so they allow for the 25-foot,
If they cut it in half and it was more like a
Yeah, I just,
depth of a farmer's porch, 6, 7, 8 feet, whatever.
I just did a rough measurement and it's 8 feet off the left-hand corner and 6 feet off the right-hand corner to keep it at the 25-foot mark from the lake where we require it.
so you're
Roughly
you're
with this.
advocating the possibility of nothing more than a 6-foot wide deck.
I'm saying it'd be more of a porch. It wouldn't be really a deck. It'd be more of a porch depth.
You're still looking at a deck on the bottom and a deck on the top, or one deck?
Well, I don't personally care if there's 2 decks, if it's outside of our 25-foot no-touch.
Well,
Well,
except that
we have a
I
200
believe
foot.
that you're gonna have to do some
Well,
grading to make the deck on the
Yeah.
bottom work, which is gonna affect other things down there as well.
Yeah, he also asked about grading and materials, how they're gonna be transported around the house. Where will the materials be stockpiled? What materials will the deck be constructed of? Will there be sonotubes with concrete footings? Will concrete be washed out? And so, if so, where?
As far as all those questions go, the contractor is here in the audience as well, so he might be able to chime in a little bit more. But as of right now, he is in a close proximity to the project where his current base of operations is. So they will be storing all materials there and then transporting them on the day of work to the site for it. In terms of getting the materials down to that area, it would all be hand brought down or with the use of a wheelbarrow at that point, no use of machinery can be brought back there. With regards to the materials of the deck, right now we're proposing to use composite wood, sonotube footings. I'm gonna default to the contractor on that. But as far as any sort of washout for concrete, that will be brought off-site to the contractor's base of operations and then disposed of properly there.
I say no. And if you want to consider it, I would like to see more detail on how they propose to build a wooden concrete deck at the elevation shown in this drawing.
I still don't have the thing about the two decks. There's gonna be one.
As of right now, essentially the bottom footprint of the first floor would just be essentially where the limits of the existing house are, and then that would stretch out to 14 feet. The upper deck would just have some space just to travel around it and then go down with the stairs. So that's where the extra portion of this side gets kicked up.
So,
Do you think you can redesign this to get it farther away from the water and the 25-foot no-touch and?
As far as shrinking the deck in half, I don't know if our clients would necessarily want to go through the whole effort of only having a 6-foot or 7-foot deck in that case, so I'd have to default to them for it.
Okay, would you state your name and so forth for the record and
I'm Brenda Stasinski, and.
address?
176 Manchog Road, co-owner, my husband. We can push the porch back towards the house, given if we knew what, I guess, if we can go on the side of the house and more towards the side where we want to put the stairs and make that more, and go up the side of the house for the deck, because
Yeah.
that would keep it away from the lake. We can do that.
yeah, I could, I don't know what the setback is, but you could connect it like
Underneath
this.
is just because the ground is, it's very uneven, and it's because there's like old roots and things like that from trees gone by, I guess that came down a long time ago, so that there's all kind of like popping.
Anybody else wanna see this?
And we just wanted to put a new deck underneath, so you can, we have a walkout basement, and that was the point of having that. So we're just gonna do the footprint of the width of the house, the 20 feet of the house.
Andy?
I'm personally, I hate to tell anybody no, but we do have that 25-foot rule, and it's for everybody, and we have to stick by what we've told everybody. So, as far as I'm concerned, if it's 25 feet away from the lake, I'm good.
Is that, can I just ask if that's something new?
No, we've been
Because
doing that
You
since.
look along that whole area, and there's decks that stick out further than, the houses are closer than 20.
They didn't come in for the amendment.
Pardon me?
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh.
Zach? Yeah.
I would say, I agree with like I think if it's the 25-foot rule has been applied across the board, I think we should stick with that. But I do think if they basically cut the deck in half and then move it out to the other side of the house, I see no reason why the amended plan would not pass unless there's some other issue that we come along with.
Bill?
I feel the same. If you get a 25-foot off, and I don't want to say no to it too, and I know you get a lack of space, but when even the
Is
Sutton,
it the wall, the 25 feet from the wall, from the lake?
Yeah, high
at the
water
edge,
mark.
edge of water, yeah.
Okay. And then if we can do it, we just would like to be able to put table and chairs out there, and if just 7 feet wouldn't do that. But
Now
if
we-
we can go on the side,
Yeah, your side, I mean, I don't know what the side lot setback is, but just a quick sketch here. The side, could be 12 feet wide.
As of right now, we are going in with ZBA for, I believe it was that 7.5-foot mark at the bottom of that secondary deck on the side of the house. So any sort of potential changes there, I don't foresee ZBA having any sort of issues with it. And then also that property line does kind of tailor away from that area, so you will be increasing any sort of separation from the property line at that furthest corner.
Mike?
Just haven't had one this close to the lake since I've been on. So I just want to understand, like,
And then,
the objection of what we are trying to not have happen. Because when I think of a wooden deck, we could talk about construction technical, there's ways to not dig in the ground. When I look at the grades, if they go to the side, are we creating more work, more grading, because it goes steeper, you can see the lines get closer. I think 14's not, there's an existing house here, and I am not one for everything's etched in stone, it can never be discussed. That's just me personally, think that we should always have a discussion and consider, there's been no additions to this property, I don't believe. Is this in the existing structure? It's a small camp. I've seen the property. If it's a deck and it's done properly and there's spaces and there's crushed stone and none of the water's going any different into the ground and it's still filtering the same when it gets to the lake, I believe the objective here is to protect the lake. That's the resource area. It's hard without Brandon here to help weigh in on some of the comments. I would feel better if he was here, just because he understands it. What the mission is to protect the lake. So I personally wouldn't just say no, because it's 25 feet. I want to understand and what the objective is, and can that be accomplished with this deck still being built? And maybe it can't. I don't know it all, but I personally wouldn't just say no. That's how I feel.
State your name and address.
Paul Bro, 66 Grove Street in Douglas. I'll be the contractor of the deck. If we put the footings within that 25-foot boundary and not, you know, we're 25 feet away from the water. We come 25 feet, it says cut the deck in half. Would we be able to cantilever over that a little bit? You know, 2 feet just to get the extra, 7 feet is not really, you know, you can't really put a table and chair out there, and that's what their goal is, to be able to put a table and chair out there. If we went 9 feet, you know, 2 feet over the cantilever, would that be something that we could do? Just to give them, you know,
I don't know, I guess you're gonna have to redesign it to get it away from the 25 feet, and then we'll see from there.
I think what was said is if there was a plan
Right.
that explained to us how you, remember, it's about the water and sediment and where it's gonna go and how it's gonna reach the lake. So I'm not gonna, just, if there was to understand anything, I don't know, there's a whole group of people that each might have different ideas, so I don't wanna lead anybody to think anything. I just think it's hard with plans that don't show a whole lot.
Also, you know, I'm concerned about the lot coverage, because it looks to me, and I'm not an engineer, I have a biology background, but it looks like there's an awful lot of lot coverage there for the size of the lot.
I can definitely look into the lot coverage and then supply that in an email to Brandon, Wanda, to have
Well,
for
that's
commission at that.
So they'd
basically a
count
plan.
the garage, the dwelling, and all the decks. That's what they'd count towards lot coverage, not parking area or landscape stairs. So if you take all the square footage of the lot, and if you're over 20%, check on that. I'm not sure that that's,
And I'll follow up with Lynn also on that, just to get ZBA's clarification.
yep,
for it.
she knows what they all are. And then if you start moving the deck around, you go to ZBA, and then you end up going to the side and pushing it back, then you're gonna need variances on the right side, because I
We
believe.
are already getting a variance for the right side.
Yeah, but they're gonna wanna know, like, when you're this close to side setbacks, you wanna go there with the right,
Oh, I mean, I can definitely re-update plans and supply them with any sort of dimensions or anything they would need. I'm just kind of speaking offhand here that. if
cause just
anything
listening
that we would
tonight,
change,
25
we
feet
would-
is a sweet spot where everybody would say okay. So you might wanna reconfigure your deck to a way that you're that 25 feet, and then ZBA will see exactly what you need for variances. When's your ZBA meeting?
We need any
I believe
forms of
it's gonna be,
mitigation.
May 2nd, if I'm not mistaken.
So you have
Yes.
some time to work out the shape and,
Yes, and you might consider some forms of mitigation too for doing this.
Okay, and then for any forms of mitigation that the commission might be looking for, is there any suggestions that we can start to at least consider at this point?
Well, if you have any room for additional landscaping that would add native shrubs or something, but it's a very tiny lot too.
Well, that we were doing that. We were gonna put in
Yeah.
along the porch, on the bottom.
Yeah.
Shrubs and stuff, but, may I ask then is this all for naught if there's already the 20% is?
That has nothing to do with us. That
that'd
has
just
to
be
do,
another variance. yeah.
that would
The
be
variance, but okay.
Through another board.
They're
another board.
Through ZBA, when you go to ZBA, that lot coverage is something in our zoning laws, so if you
He
need
was on
relief-
CBA for a long time.
Yeah,
Okay.
so you just wanna make sure your plan's right, shows everything. They usually go through somewhat of a checklist of all the different things that the lot should meet.
2 weeks enough?
I mean, I can get something turned around, at least for conservation by tomorrow at this point. But if you would like us to come to the next meeting and represent, I can do that. If there's gonna be
However,
anything for
if-
waiting until ZBA,
If ZBA is on May 2nd, we're on May 1st.
okay.
So you might wanna come into the May 15th meeting. After you go.
No, we're May first and ZBA's May
May
second,
2nd,
so wouldn't
yeah.
that be better? It sounds like
They could get going on
you
it.
would probably be more the direction of what would change the shape than
Brenda
ZBA.
actually just reminded me, ZBA actually got pushed off 1 week. It's gonna be May 9th for that meeting.
Well, on the agenda for me, right?
I mean, I won't tell you what to do, but I think they should come in front of us with their new plan and see if we're gonna be okay with it. Because if they go to ZBA, get it approved, then we do something different, then he's gotta go back to ZBA. Those are all months at a time of things that happen. At least they'll know how we feel,
CBA's only
ZBA.
once a month.
yep.
Mhm.
And it's 25 or a 20-day appeal period, so every time you miss a month, it's a month, and plus a month, so it's like 2 months.
So you wanna do the 1st then?
Oh, like just,
It's up to him.
yeah, it's up to you guys, but
Make a motion to continue to May 1st at
7:40.
7:40.
Second?
All those in favor?
aye.
If you're gonna have a second deck, I will be looking for the detail on how you're gonna do that, and how you're gonna grade it, and how you're gonna drain it.
Okay.
7:40.
And then as far as any sort of more information for that deck, so that the board will have any clarification that they would need, are you looking for something like a footing location, or what exactly could I provide to you to ensure that
Well,
you have a?
your sectional thickness for your deck, I assume your deck's gonna be made out of 2x6s and 2x8s pressure treated with 5/4 board on top of that. So that gives you a sectional thickness of close to a foot. Now, is that gonna bear on the ground? Are you excavating the ground out from underneath of that? How do you fit that into the contours as shown there without regrading it or excavating material out of there? And what do you do on the edges now? Because you've you've excavated out and it's sitting down in a hole.
Earthwork, anything you're gonna do in the ground. And just know in today's world, you got diamond piers, you got techno posts that don't require any digging. Just not gonna tell you how to build a deck, but those are things that,
We'll have everything discussed between the clients and the contractors for how we can best proceed with everything, so. I do appreciate the input and everything on that, and we'll definitely be able to be back on May 1st with some of that plan and some information. And then, just because I know it was mentioned that it is a CPA thing, for at least the conditions plan, is that something that you would like lot coverage and things shown on it as well? Or that's something as long as we can just provide you with that information, you'd be all set with that?
I mean, I don't think it's up to this board to make zoning calls.
no,
I
it
don't
isn't.
need to see it. I was just trying to give you a heads up so you didn't go to this meeting and miss it, and then they'll continue it, because you know.
Okay. Well, thank
That's
you, I
all.
appreciate it.
Right, thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Where's the other plan going?
Yeah, he is.
Andy had it,
You got the other
Oh,
plan?
yep.
Yeah, you can't.
looking for the plan.
It looked good in there, I was happy.
Fold it just right.
Wanda, did 30 Hemlock continue?
No,
No,
never yet.
it's a new filing.
You're not for 30 Hemlock now, right?
Yeah.
That's
John
That's
Federico
next,
just
John.
left.
You can sit up front though if you want.
you might be up because they're
Would you
not
like a
here.
candy?
Maybe just let John know that he's next. Maybe just let John know that he's next.
Yeah,
Well, I'll read it in the
my
meantime.
agenda didn't go
The
out.
Sutton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, April 17th, 2019, at 7:20 PM at the Sutton Town Hall, 4 Uxbridge Road, Sutton, Mass. Purpose of this hearing is to review a notice of intent submitted to the Conservation Commission by Karen Green, Hopkinton, Mass. The project consists of raising the existing foundation by 1.5 feet, install riprap swale to eliminate a drainage problem on map 15, parcels 43 on 30 Hemlock Drive, Sutton, Mass. This notice is publicized in accordance with the provisions of General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, commonly known as the Wetlands Protection Act, and the Sutton Wetlands Protection Bylaw. You've got your fees paid, we have your resume on file.
Yes, ma'am.
Have we got the abutters notifications?
Yes, and I just dropped off the certificate of mailing with one.
Okay, DEP number?
DEP number has not been issued as of yet, so I understand we will be continued until the next meeting.
Okay, do you have an applications in with the Board of Health, Planning, or Appeal Board?
As of right now, no, we are only be proposing a drainage solution.
So no other
No other
applications?
at the current time.
Okay,
Before we get going, I am not a direct abutter to this. I'm a couple lots over, but if anybody would like me to recuse myself, I will. If anybody has an issue with it.
I don't
Okay.
have an issue right now.
okay,
All right, so for this project here, again, for the record, my name is John Federico with Gary and Helmond. I'm
you have
representing
plans?
our client, Karen Green,
Do we have any plans for it?
and their project at 30 Hemlock. Just to kind of fill everybody in for this, the reasoning for the drainage revision at the site was that recently Hemlock Drive was repaved over. A lot of that runoff that was generated from that hill area has kind of been forced onto our site and has channelized the rut next to our existing driveway. Contractor has gone through and kind of excavated that a little bit just to provide a little bit of a clearer channel to the existing 6-inch clay drainage pipe that's crossing the driveway. But over the course of probably the last year, if not more, that the road's been paved, our client has been hearing water that's going to the house after doing some investigation. While we're seeing that is coming through the ground, through any cracks that are there. And then also too, they can actually hear the running water from anything that's in the area. So right now, they are proposing to raise the bottom floor slab by 1 foot and then the top floor by 1.5 feet. If I got those two numbers flipped, I'm sorry for mistaking there. And essentially what's gonna be happening is underneath the new foundation that they'll be pouring, they'll be having under drains, proper rock filtration and everything, just to allow water to pass through and not actually do any sort of damage for the house. Because we're gonna be doing the work there, we understand that commission would like to make sure that we're not gonna be having any adverse impacts to the adjacent wetlands on site. So we're proposing a stilling basin to collect any sort of runoff as a part of also the regraded driveway area to collect everything, treat water, and then disperse into the existing wetland slash small stream that's located along the side of the site. Outside of that, our client is proposing to build a pervious patio on the back side of the house. That could be something brick, cobblestone. They haven't worked out anything specific for it yet. They just asked that it has been shown, so that at a later time, when they do go to try to build it, they already have all the approvals with the commission.
and how far is that away from the lake?
As far as that being from the lake, I don't have a dimension for it, but that is exceeding 25 feet.
Way over 25 feet. 35,
But anything,
41, 33.
1 inch is 20 feet.
Oh, 1 inch is 20 feet. Oh, yeah, they 20, 40, 60, or 100 feet. They're good.
Close.
I'm not.
It's 32 feet, and that's 100.
So all you're here for is the drainage, you're not here for the actual construction part of it?
I mean, obviously,
Right,
we would be
100-foot wetland
proposing,
buffer.
everything to get a commission's approval at that point,
200
doing housework,
Should be.
Who's saying
grading around the
so?
house, and then also
It's-
for
it could be
the
So if
200
that's
foot.
32.
And then I know
It says
Brandon
100
also
foot.
did supply us
Yeah,
with another
100.
little write-up. I can also run through those
So
comments.
this is
if you guys would like.
493 feet
I'm not
up
sure if
there,
that was
it's up
something
to here,
distributed
so.
or-
I'm just a window with
I
that.
think I printed it off,
Yeah,
but
we
I don't
did.
see it here.
It's 31 foot by dimension.
Right, that's what I'm saying, so you
Yeah,
take,
but
start
Hemlock
doing
Drive.
this. How is that 100?
Yeah, why don't you run
That's
through
the
his
edge of
comments?
wetland.
You got another one here, here's the 200 foot.
200, that makes
Briefly
sense.
going through here.
Like I said, roughly-
Brandon says that he was able to take an initial look at the
Maybe 80.
plan, but he has not been able to do any sort of, real site visits or anything yet. We did have a wetland report, that was, conducted by Ecotech. They have noted, 4 areas for wetlands. One would be denoted with flags. I believe it's FC 1 through FC 8, if I'm not mistaken. We also have another set of wetland flags, that's, located, my apologies here, that are in this area. Those are denoted by Series A. We also have another set of wetland flags, that are running
There it is.
on this upper end, and then also through this area here that are noted as B and C for it. As a part of that, we do have an existing landscape area that has a flagpole that's located right in here. Brandon has expressed concerns, if it is an existing landscape area, whether or not it is a wetland. That's something he would like to have re-clarified when he goes out and does the site visit. I know from an email exchange with Brandon, he said as soon as he gets back from DC, he will be doing that immediately, so that he can get me some comments, a little bit more detailed than what he has here.
So there's more extensive wetlands than just the edge of the lake.
Yes, some of those wetlands might have potentially been caused by that runoff kind of puddling, especially in this area where our drainage pipe was. I know the Ecotech wetland report has denoted an intermittent stream. It could be considered perennial, but that was something that in the report they were going to default that to higher up boards in that case. I personally don't have any real experience with wetlands other than engineering work, so I don't want to comment on anything that Ecotech might have already had listed in their report.
If it's perennial, it's a 200 foot. If it's intermittent, it's 100 feet.
So, are you doing anything with this clay pipe?
As far as the clay pipe goes, nope. The only thing we would be doing is a small little end treatment for it.
Okay.
In order to have a little bit of settling that's going to occur in that stilling basin, we will be attaching some sort of yard drain to it, or I'm talking with the contractor, we might potentially throw an elbow PVC portion to it, and then have that brought up to the proper elevation we need in order to maintain some sort of attenuation and treatment that's going to occur there. I believe as of right now, we have that listed as about a 1/10 to 2/10 lower than what the edge of pavement is right at that driveway portion. But everything is pitching back towards that stilling basin, so treatment will be provided before ever leaving that sort of area. Everything else for the site, we have tried to grade as best as we can to collect any sort of water. And then we've also added in another water quality swale towards the front of the site for the roof drain and foundation drains, as well as to also provide a little bit of treatment for the patio as well.
So you think you've seen everything, and this is something I haven't seen before. It seems like you're raising the house up so the water can go into the house.
No, Joyce, I know a little bit about the job.
Good.
Apparently, the foundation is proposing to fail as a result of the water running underneath the house. It's an existing house, and the whole object of it is to put a new foundation under the house. And while they're doing that, raise it up a foot, the basement up a foot, so that the water that's going through there won't go through there as well. They can control it better. And they're gonna put some under drains underneath the slab, which is not uncommon, to help drain the water out of there. The swale, proposed riprap swale, is actually a form of mitigation in that it is currently unprotected earthen ditch, if you, using the word kindly. And of course, it's taken erosion and everything else down towards the lake, so by rip-wrapping it and protecting it, and this is the water that's coming from across the road here, so it's a form of mitigation that they're doing here. The settling pond at the end, even though it may be within a buffer zone or something else, again, is a form of mitigation to help purify the water before it goes into the lake. I mean, it's almost, you know, it's an emergency situation where the house is collapsing, it's underwater, and they're trying to get it up. They're not trying to put an addition on it or do anything else to it. The only addition would be called out and identified as this porous patio in the front, which is actually the working access that they're gonna be using to get in to do the new foundation and everything. But as I say, it's an attempt to save the house from being ruined and collapsing as a result of the water going down through. And as I say, they have proposed this riprap swale as a form of mitigation for working in and around the buffer zone. You know, the lot itself is kind of convoluted in that there is several, as identified by Ecotech, possible wetland areas out there, but they're all existing. This house is
It's
60
been there,
years
and
old.
The owner has been there for probably at least 30-plus years at this point.
So, I mean, it's not like they filled a wetland or anything else. This is what's been there, and this is what they've been living off of. It's a pre-existing condition that they're living in. I don't know as if the 25-foot buffer zone that we were talking about earlier would necessarily apply in this situation, because they say it's a pre-existing condition. It's not like they're adding in the house, they're trying to save the house from collapsing. And they feel to do that, a new foundation underneath of it, and
Is this a camp or is this a
This is a
full-time
permanent
house?
residence.
It's a camp.
Currently, the client is not, or, sorry, let me rephrase it. It is a house and everything, they're only using it for summer activities.
yeah, it's a camp. It is not winterized or anything else at this point. And
And I don't
they-
think there's any insulation in it.
No, and they, as far as they know, don't have any intent of
Right,
winterizing it right now or turning it into anything other than trying to protect the asset that they've got there because the foundation is collapsing.
So, you'll be coming back.
As far as any comments, at least on the plan as of right now, that we might be able to address before the next meeting, does the commission have any sort of issues at this current time? If there is anything that I can supply on my end, whether it be any sort of calculations or anything like that, I'd be more than happy to supply that.
I have only one question. You were saying about using PVC piping.
Yes.
I would like to not see that, just from a personal perspective, and based on some of the knowledge I have, I would like to not see a PVC piping, but other than that, I don't think anything is.
What else?
What piping would you substitute for PVC?
I would leave that open to the discretion of the contractor or the engineer.
I know we can also propose things like HDPE, having any sort of concrete pipe in this case, just kind of connecting to the already existing 6-inch, just to provide a little bit of a kind of like a freeboard, or however you like to refer to that. I don't think that would necessarily be the case, at least under the foundation portion. That's something I can definitely work out with the contractor if the commission has any sort of specific regulations or anything they would like to impose for that. I think that the easiest and cheapest way just to kind of get this all working so that, obviously, like Bob said, that we're not going to lose out on the asset here, we can try to use some sort of at least equivalent substitute to something along those PVC type of lines.
Knowing this lot, I think you're gonna have an issue. It's real wet down there. I don't know what effect it's gonna have when you know, if you slow it down up here, that might drain this out. I don't think you're gonna hurt it any, but I don't know if maybe,
That is something we were kind of considering as far as location goes. We didn't want to locate the water quality swale off-site, and we do
Right.
understand that there is pockets of very wet areas
Right.
through there.
maybe you
I
wanna
know-
think about a French drain or something in this area to
That's something we can consider. I just chose to propose a swale for now, but
Sure.
if French drain would suffice, we can definitely propose and have it.
cleaner the water, the better, in my opinion, for the lake.
Yeah, we can definitely do something along those lines. And in terms of any sort of regulations that you might have for that French drain, would it just be like 2 feet of stone or something along those lines, or whatever would provide?
Bob's idea was the last one on Manchog. Do you have any?
No, I mean, it's,
Like you wouldn't ask for it to be lined or anything like that?
Nothing crazy.
Okay.
What did you do, matting?
well, yeah, I mean, it's nice to have PVC or the erosion control blanket,
Okay.
Yeah, stone.
PVC line just to keep it from getting plugged up. And it can't be too deep because you're gonna be in the water anyhow, so,
Right.
you know.
And that was the other issue that we're kind of fighting with too. Since we are gonna be potentially doing some regrading just around the house because we are gonna be bringing it up that foot, I can definitely see what we can do to make sure that we're gonna keep the stone as much out of the water table as we can there.
And they've, I think, done as good a job as they can to keep the regrading as tight to the house as they possibly
Absolutely.
can.
As far as the area around the house, I have spoken to the contractor on that, and he has asked for 25 feet to be shown. If the commission would like, I could have the erosion control barriers extended out to the property line, but in terms of the equipment that they're gonna need to bring in the beams in order to raise the house, that was something that he did specifically request for it.
Temporary construction access is what you're talking about.
Yep.
Yeah. And the erosion control should be definitely outside of that, and it wouldn't be a bad thing to show on the drawing, temporary construction access, area to be restored afterwards.
Yeah, I think you'll find if you place this correctly, it'll probably dry a lot of that up too.
Okay.
Erosion controls on
I'm sure they're 12-inch, 100% biodegradable
Mhm.
bottles.
And then
12-inch
I know we have that issue in the
biodegradable
past, it is
straw
a little
bottle.
straw for it as well, so.
They actually renamed that wattle up at the farm. They call it the Joyce wattle.
Oh, good.
If the commission doesn't have anything else, I can definitely add a couple of those changes, like rock trench, construction area, and such things. And I can be back here in 2 weeks with, I hope that we have the EP number then. If not, I can definitely get in touch with Wanda and let us know that we'll continue at least until we get that number.
Okay, so continue to May 1st at 7 p.m.
Motion to do 30 Hemlock Drive to May 1st at 7:50.
All those in favor?
Aye. DP number's been real slow, right?
Yeah, at least since I've been working with you guys, they've probably been running at least 3 weeks to a month. But thank you all, I appreciate it.
Have a good night.
All right, thank you. Joyce, you want this plan too?
Can you shut that window? Thank you.
Another set of plans?
This, right there, they're both there. The next one is 23 Jones Road, Travis Brown.
Make a motion to waive the reading of 23 Jones Road.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Good evening, Travis Brown of Andrews Survey and Engineering here on behalf of Pete Skatanis for 23 Jones Road. As the commission is aware, Brandon went out, hung some flags, field located those flags, added those flags to the plan. I guess there was some discussion last meeting, the accuracy of the flags, so just want to get input from the commission where we go from here to kind of resolve it.
I thought you were going to talk to the applicant as to what you were gonna do.
So I went out there and field verified that the flag is on the property, because you can see from a drill hole in this location and a drill hole that's here. So you can see between those. So I think the question is the accuracy of that flag. I mean, it's accurate in the field because your consultant hung the flag, so I guess I'm confused about what exactly is being questioned.
Well, I guess we voted last meeting to get a second opinion on the line,
On which line?
on the property line.
Well, Brandon didn't see the drill holes, but I believe you found, or you or your guys found them, right?
So when we were on site, Andrew and Mike, that day, we didn't necessarily see that drill hole in the wall. So as you know, that wall's pretty wide. So that drill hole actually sits more on this side of that wall. You can see it, we can go out there, we can look at it.
Brandon's question was whether it's a drill hole in a rock in the wall, or what the layout, could that rock have been moved, or?
Yeah, I mean, you can clearly see that that rock is not been moved. That drill hole was found, that's nothing our surveyor said. That drill hole's been there for many years, as has the other drill hole. The property line's not in question. You know, this has been approved by the planning board.
It is in question.
Well, not through conservation, the property line's not in question.
Property line is in question, to my understanding.
Maybe a better way of saying it is, even though the flag's hanging there, I think that it's hard for us to sit here and say that it's contiguous.
Well,
Well, that's
I
I
was-
was
let's-
I never asked the conservation commission to determine if it was contiguous. I'm asking you
if the,
that wetland
if the
flag.
flag is right, they're here for an INRAD to identify the limit of the wetlands, and that's all at this point. Now, that's number one. Number two, then you've got a bylaw, both we have got and the planning board's got a bylaw about continuous land. But right now, we should be addressing
Just the INRAD.
just the INRAD as far as the location or identification of the wetlands. And I think that everybody is, from our side, our consultant is satisfied that he placed the flags at the proper locations and that nobody's moved the flags. And that they've been surveyed on the drawing. So I would think that, you know, as far as identifying the limits of wetland, that issue was
Right.
probably done with. The second question, which, as he says, you're not even asking us that question yet, but, you know, is a trickier question.
Right.
So I think that we can approve the NRAD right now and see where we go from there.
I personally, I think that, and I can't speak for anybody else on the board, but I physically walked that site, and that original wetlands flagging was like way off. And I think that's what kind of set the standard for us to start questioning this, that somebody stamped that and said it was right, and that,
Yeah, and that's frustrating for me because
I can
we hired
imagine.
somebody to do a job
Right.
and have them go back and verify that.
right,
There was still room there.
I can
And I
imagine.
have to come and stand here, so that's frustrating for me too.
I get it.
We did put the wetland issue all to bed, though. I thought it was over this
It's over
so-
7 inches,
7 inches
Well,
because we couldn't find the drill holes.
but that's gonna be
thought.
next meeting.
let's
That's
put-
not what we're
Can we
talking
make a
about.
motion on the wetlands
Yeah,
flag?
I'll make the motion.
Should we make the motion on that? Discussion done?
We have a, Jack,
Jack Sheehan, 26 Jones Road. Before you make a motion, can I say something? Can I show you something?
Of course, that's why we recognized it.
Several of you have been out to the site. Travis, have you been out to the site?
I have multiple times.
I don't know if we've met. I live across the street. I've lived there for 30-something years. The topography, as I pointed out before, would suggest that the drainage goes in this direction. Do you agree or not? Okay, all right. So Brandon hung flags over the top of the stone wall. Yet, if you've been out there, you can see that there's breakout on the south side of the stone wall. Have you seen?
I've seen it, yeah.
Okay, the breakout's over so the question was with Brandon hanging the flag over the top of the stone wall.
Which he didn't do.
Well,
Yes, he
basically, it's
did.
on the top of the stone wall.
But it's not over the stone wall.
No,
The-
over the
It's not
top,
on the
not on
So
the
you're
north
saying
side of the
above-
stone wall.
Above the stone wall.
Okay, my question would be, how confident can Brandon be? How confident, as far as, if my understanding is correct, Andrews did not offer an alternative flagging. Brandon went out and flagged it, and you guys shot it and put it on the plan. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the day that
Okay.
we met Brandon out there, after he hung the flags,
Mhm.
we said we didn't agree with that flag,
Which flag?
the one on top of the stone wall.
Okay.
Because if you're standing there, it doesn't make any sense.
I was out there when he hung the flags the first time, and then they went out when they met you.
So my question to Brandon was, how can you hang a flag there? What, can you determine that that's wetland? He couldn't, because he couldn't auger there. It's a stone wall. So
So
why
move
is
the
the
stone
flag
wall.
there? What's the property line, Jason?
So my point would be, how confident, or my question is, how confident are you that the wetland does not extend into the stone wall and possibly even to the edge of the other side of the property?
We,
That being because the hydrology is there, and you can't, maybe this can't be the vegetation because of the stone wall, but it's quite possible that the soils are there.
It is in Brandon.
we
dug
did
a hole
auger
there
on
that
the,
day.
on the,
On the
Top.
north side,
Yeah,
but I mean,
close.
if you're talking 7 inches on the property line, which seems a little crazy that we're arguing, and I'm beating a dead horse here. 7 inches extending under the stone wall is entirely possible.
Well, there was wetlands on the other side of the stone wall, and he
Didn't meet all
hung the
the,
flag.
No, it didn't, the soils weren't there,
right.
according to what
Jason
Brandon
will
said.
run back up.
My point is, if it's a 7-inch difference, how confident can you be that the flag that Brandon hung is exactly correct? And I don't know if that how far that discussion went. Do you know? Because I wasn't out there.
Well, that's the frustrating part too. You could get 10 wetland scientists and get 10 different results hanging that flag by feet. But
Exactly.
now we're coming
There is
down to
some
the
subjectivity.
accuracy of a survey of that location.
So, I'll back up again. The original wetland flagging, which caught my eye to begin with, and I said to Byron, it's wrong. And did somebody go back out there again afterwards
We
and
sent them out there
verify
a
it?
second time because we wanted to be confident before we came into the plan. And that's the information that we provided.
That the original wetland flagging was correct?
The original one wasn't correct.
So,
no,
It
no.
We're
was lit.
saying that
That's what-
we sent our guy that told us it was correct before Brandon went out.
And he told you first and
A
second
second
time.
time that it was,
That's why he's
didn't
frustrated.
extend to the wall.
But it wasn't correct.
It was not.
I personally, because Brandon was the last one out there that flagged this, correct? I wouldn't feel comfortable going against what Brandon flagged for us.
my question is, if
I'm not
Brandon's,
going against it.
No, no,
I'm
I'm not
exactly
saying you are.
what's
Right,
flagged.
right. I'm not saying you are. I'm not saying you are.
question for me, to Brandon would be, who's unfortunately not here, is how confident are you that wetland does not extend underneath the stone wall?
I don't want to speak for Brandon, but didn't he say it was the only, didn't he say basically you'd have to move the wall to find out if the wetland went below the stone? Because
I think we have to wait till he's here.
I don't want to speak for him, but,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know what to say. Like I said, I saw that it was wrong. I said that it was wrong at the planning board meeting, and go back and look, and I guess he did go back and look, so, I don't know, I gotta tell you something, well, I'll tell you what later, but.
I'll say this, because this is what was said that day when we were all out in the woods. And this was Brandon, I believe, that said it, is that you could appeal it to DEP, they would come out, and then if we were wrong, meaning, so I'm gonna go back to what I said originally, and I went out there. It's hard, and I agree with what Jack's saying. It's hard for me to say where that wetland, I don't care if the blue flag's there. So Brandon's a consultant, he's another opinion, you just said 10 guys can go out and do 10 different things. So to me, all I was trying to say is it's too much of a gray area for me to sit here and agree that it's 7 inches, or that the wetland flag's right. That's where the gray area is for me. And I was the first one to say, let's try on the other side of the wall. Because if that was a wetland, it was a moot point. Because if we were a foot over the wall and we were standing in a wetland, what we were gonna argue? And we did the oil test, and we all agreed that it wasn't. And then we go to the other side of a stone wall, and it's hard to get the auger in because of the rocks. So if we all wanna be fair and honest, that gray area that Jack's talking about is there. It's hard. So how do you ask our board to say that this is contiguous and say that it's okay? We don't feel comfortable, that's all we're trying to say. We're not, your surveying might be correct, the flag might be correct, but there's too much of a gray area at 7 inches when you stand there and you look at all these variables and what might be and what might not, for us to say that it is. It's not to disagree or agree with your work or say that you made a mistake. But remember, the doubt, and I saw it, you sent a survey crew who had to stand in standing water, or if it was frozen, there wasn't snow. we had them, like, how could the same crew went out and held the rod a second time? Now all of a sudden they're, what, 100 feet away from where the flags were, 75 feet? So it's too
I'm
much
not
of a gray area.
understanding what you're
There's been too many mistakes for us to feel comfortable. That's all we're trying to say. So the only other thing I think that we talked about doing was to have either a surveyor or we can deny it and DEP will go out and be the final say of where the wetlands are. Those I thought were the two things when we left with Brandon that day.
And
That's
he
how
was
I
go- and he
understood
was
it,
gonna
just to give
consult
nobody a
with
runaround,
his-
just to be black and white, but
Yeah.
that's the way I understood that day to go. And,
So you're questioning your own consultant's wetland.
That's-
no,
No.
no. We're questioning where that line is. It's so close,
That's
it's,
got nothing to do with it.
yeah, it has everything to do, it has
No.
everything to do that if this piece is contiguous
Contiguous.
or not.
No,
No, it
Contiguous.
doesn't, Mike. We're not even talking about that.
Yeah,
That's
we're
a
not at
planning
that
board
point
issue.
yet.
That is not a regulation in the wetland bylaw that you have. That shouldn't even be part of this discussion.
We're talking about the property line. That's a
Yeah,
7
well, where
inch-
exactly where the edge of the, no, we're talking about where the edge of the wetland is.
And I'm asking you if that flag that I'm showing 7 inches from that property line is accurate.
We're talking.
That's
all
where
I'm
I'm not sure. That's, so, everyone can be different. For me, that's where I'm not sure.
I personally.
I won't disagree, I'll say your surveying's right, but I just can't tell, I can't be certain that that flag is depicting exactly where that wetland is.
Let's
That's
go
how
out
I
there.
feel.
Let's
I
have a
did, I
site
stood there,
visit.
I did,
But
I
we
stood on the
didn't-
wall with you.
But we didn't have the.
You're gonna move all the wall, rocks out of the way?
No.
And when we get out there, we're gonna stand right on the property line, we're gonna do an auger and soil
Well,
test?
wait, that
Is
is.
that, well, no, if that's what he's saying,
Move the wall to test it.
I don't know, I'm not gonna tell him what to
We-
do.
No, the bottom line is what you said. Are we questioning Brandon's
Right.
flag?
And that's something I'm not comfortable with because that's going to set a precedent.
Are we questioning Brandon's flagging?
Right. I don't want to
If
question
we're
that.
not
I
questioning.
don't think we can do anything till he's here and discusses this. And when we left it last time, you were gonna go talk to your applicant, and it, to my understanding, there were two alternatives on the table. One, we deny it, you appeal to DEP. Second, you get the line surveyed.
What line?
Yeah, but
We
we-
surveyed the line. The
Yeah.
property line's the property
We-
line.
We questioned it.
The property line, I don't think
Yes.
you have the
No.
authority to question the
We-
property line.
Yes, we do. We
Or
can
the
ask,
planning department.
we can ask for, according to the DEP, we can.
While you're looking that up, if memory serves, a couple weeks now, that Brandon said if you appeal to DEP, it was kind of a crazy because DEP is gonna agree with Brandon.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's
But
true.
all they're gonna agree to is Brandon's placement of the flag.
The Southeast Region Circuit Rider stated that although unusual, a peer review for a land survey could be allowed under 53G peer review process, and that's what we were asking for.
For the property line to be verified. There's
Along-
drill holes there, we can go
along that-
stand on it and look at it in the field without a third party.
That's
survey.
what they weren't, the drill holes weren't showed to us or known where they were 2 weeks ago, 3
The
weeks ago,
day
whatever it
we
was.
were out there, we did not
I didn't
have
see,
that.
yep, agreed.
Yeah.
I never saw it.
And for your information, we can't go out there. You invited the whole board, and that can't happen unless you ethically advertise the meeting for 48 hours, and there wasn't enough time to do that. So, you know,
And, I
we
mean,
could
I'm
not do
happy he's
that.
going out there as a board. I mean.
But we're not talking about the property line right now. We're talking about the wetlands line.
Well, that's
Oh,
where I'm a little
both.
confused,
You're kinda
because
talking
if we're
about
talking about the property line that the planning board has accepted, the property's been surveyed and stamped by a licensed professional surveyor.
But they have not voted on this as a lot yet, right?
Yes,
They have,
They
they
did?
have.
Jack?
Jack Shanahan. 2 points. One, I think Travis is right about the property line. Personally, my confidence in the original survey is much, to a much higher level than the wetlands line. And that part was borne out originally. I think that, and to Bob's point, the property line is less of an issue than where exactly is the edge of the wetland. And it's a tough call. And I don't know what the final answer to it is, but it may be to have a third person look at it. You get Brandon looking at it and Andrew's person looking at it. Are you a wetlands guy, Travis?
I'm not a wetlands.
Okay, so we've got two wetlands guys who have come up with two different surveys. And I think it reasonable to be uncomfortable with that exact wetland line at the property line because of the existence of the stone wall, the historic drainage pattern of the area, and the fact that there's breakout on that south side of the wall. And if in fact there's hydric soil underneath the stone wall, then you have to move that 7-inch line. All this being said, if the lot is contiguous, you're gonna see them again anyways, because they have to do a crossing in order to build the property. But if it's not contiguous, the retreat lot doesn't exist. Then you need to go back and look at the bigger parcel again. The lot is broken off of a 12 and some 12.5 acre lot, which has significant wetlands on the other two lots, two frontage lots. Which I will say, you'll see me back here again questioning the wetlands delineation on those lots too. But it's a sort of a catch-22. Personally, I think the best thing to do would be to get a disinterested third party in here and take another look at the wetland before you go through this appeal process and all this other stuff. There's a lot of money's been spent here trying to figure this whole thing out to begin with. And it all started with the bad wetland survey, I think, the original one. So maybe that's probably the cheapest thing. Another survey to determine the lot line where they've got, found points, drill holes. I remember those guys were marching around in my yard and across the street for like 3 or 4 weeks before they did the original survey. They were out there a lot, so it isn't a willy-nilly survey that was done. So that would be my suggestion. Get another wetlands guy in and get all 3 of them together and come up with an agreement and present it to the board, and then you guys vote on the ANRAD.
Well, it's this 7 inches. Where is this 7 inches? But
The 7 inches may be a moot point. Assume that the lot line is correct. You're only interested, as Bob said, is where's the edge of the wetland? That's the question. That's the purpose of the ANRAD. If there's a gross error in the survey because somebody was using just an old deed or something like that, then maybe you have a big question on the survey. In this case, I don't really think there's a big deal with that, but the placement of the flag would be the thing that I see as necessarily unreliable because of the hydrology and because of the historic, my anecdotal viewing of this property tells me that it's quite possible that wetland is contiguous with at least the other side, a little bit to the north side of the wall.
But this has already been approved as a lot by the planning board. I thought it hadn't been approved because.
Subject to the ANRAD.
Subject to the ANRAD, okay, so it
you
hasn't
could-
been approved
They could
yet.
not convey until an ANRAD
Right.
was done.
So I guess we need, like you said, to maybe have a third.
But back to the drawing board
Yeah.
here is that, I don't wanna keep digging the hole here, but Andrews had a team do the wetland, not Andrews, but your subcontractor did the wetland. You disagreed, sent it back, they said, yes, it's right. Then Brandon went out, they met him on site, my understanding, and now everyone's in agreement with Brandon's wetland flagging as of a few weeks ago. I thought is what Andrews told us a couple weeks ago.
I personally think we're gonna open up a huge can of worms if we're questioning our wetland scientist that
I'm not
is
questioning
our
guys.
consultant. No, but if we have another person come in, I don't think that looks good for our board, and I don't think that looks good for future filings. That's just my personal opinion.
Well, if the DEP comes in, they're the third party, right?
Yeah, but the whole point is to avoid that
Yeah,
delay time and try to work it out at the local level.
Brandon told me he was confident in his flag, and he said it to
Then
the
we
whole
should
board.
approve the plan.
Or we should
I don't think we
deny
should
it and
question
appeal
it.
it to the DEP.
Well, Brandon
How
agreed.
can we deny
We
it?
can't deny it. If Brandon's confident in his flag, we can't deny
We
it.
can't deny it.
Because they,
Yeah, we can.
And-
You can deny it because we can in question we
We
as a person never have to agree with the wetland flagging. We can say it's different. That's what this board's all about,
But
is
it's your
another opinion.
consultant that hung it.
Huh?
It's your consultant that hung
So I don't have to
the flag.
agree with them.
I
That's what we're
I love
saying.
disagreeing with
Third
Brandon, but
party.
not on
No, I
something this
remember, I didn't question the survey. I questioned the edge of the wetland.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
that day on site, we talked about, well, if this flag is over the line based on.
Oh,
standing there,
absolutely, I
very
agree with
well
you
could be on
100%.
the property line, and that's not contiguous. Okay, we appeal to DEP. But what I said to Brandon before we left, I said, Brandon, we'll locate that flag. If it's 2/10, what do we do? Well, it is what it is. I come back and it's 6/10, but now it's, we're still running around.
I might be wrong, I might have to look at the minutes, but we left here 2 weeks ago, we weren't questioning the wetland, we were questioning
The
boundary,
survey.
the property
The
line.
boundary, yeah.
So I don't have a problem with the wetland.
We were questioning where the boundary was, and that's where we left it 2 weeks ago.
But it's very evident, Joyce. There's 2 drill holes, there's a stone wall that's been there for hundreds
By
of
Says
you
you,
finding the
says you.
drill
Yeah.
holes, that is,
Yeah,
cause he can prove it, he could take me out there tomorrow and I'm sure show me the drill holes.
well,
I sent a photo, I'm sure it was hard to see.
we
You
couldn't
know,
see the
looking
drill
at it.
hole, all we saw
No,
was
I
the
know,
thing.
we were holding the line
The-
above the
the
drill
line,
holes.
I think Travis has enough of a rapport here, if he's gonna put his stamp on it
Yeah.
and say those drill holes are correct, he's not gonna lose his license over it.
Yeah.
I tend
He's
to
not
believe
lying
it.
to me
He's
because
not
I'm gonna
lying.
call him tomorrow.
Right.
Okay, but
I don't think
can
he's
show
gonna
it
come
to
in
us.
here and tell a story.
Yeah. I feel a lot better the drill holes were found.
What would you do if you lost your license?
Well, it'd be
Drive a wrecker.
Byron, yeah.
Give him a
There's a
job.
lot of things I could do.
Bartend.
I don't think that,
I don't feel comfortable questioning Brad's
Right.
wetland flag.
I don't think it's, if we question Brandon's wetland flag as a board, I think we're gonna open up a can of worms in
Well,
the future.
I don't think it's questioning the wetlands flags, but, Jack,
Brandon's not here to
Yeah.
defend his wetland
Right.
flag. And this, if, for the purposes of this discussion. I know that the discussion went further than there were 2 conversations, as I recall, going on. One was the property line, and one was the edge of the wetland. And there were, Brandon had comments that I remember about the edge of the wetland, yet he did hang the flags, there's no question about that. But he can't, he can't defend it, because he's not here.
yes, I think we have to wait.
But what is he defending? He hung the flag, we located the flag like we said we were gonna. The information's all here.
Okay, so, I'm sorry, I'm interjecting. Joyce? You've got breakout on the south side of the wall, and you can't see what's underneath, you can't determine whether there's hydric soil underneath that wall or not. And if, answer this, Travis, for me, if you would, please, through the chair. If, in fact, there is hydric soil 7 inches past that flag, with the hydrology present, then that changes the hanging of that flag. And now you don't have your 7 inches.
Yeah, it could potentially, and it could potentially be the other way.
It could.
But
So.
We have to find out.
no, no. It comes back to what we've been saying right along, or what Andy's been saying. I mean, do we go with our consultant who hung the flags out there in discussion with your people and some of the members of the board out there? They hung the flags. Andrews went out and surveyed where those flags were, and that's the NRED.
I think you should wait for Brandon, because what he discussed
think
with
so,
us
too.
out in the field
No.
was that standing there with
It's
the
a-
rocks, he couldn't get under the, like,
Yes.
you're not reading between the lines of what Brandon said. Yeah, he hung the flag because that's what he could physically
But
verify
but
at that
Brandon's-
time.
But he
Brandon-
couldn't, Mike, that was on top of the wall. I asked him on site, I said, Brandon, how can you move to the middle of the wall? If you're standing on.
No, I
site,
remember
the
that. Yep,
wall
you
comes
did.
up,
Yep.
And the water is clear. I mean, it's clear, the elevation's clear where you would hang that flag. But that flag was hung on top of the wall. And I said, is there proof that that's a wetland? And he said, no, because I can't auger it.
I think we're beating a dead horse.
Yeah, let's wait for
Are
Brandon.
we gonna rip this rock wall up to figure 7 inches? Have you ever, had another company
I don't think
locate a
so.
wetland flag that you thought was 7 inches off?
It's not the case of 7 inches, Travis. It's the case of, do we want to believe our own consultant's
Right.
position?
That's what I'm getting
asking.
at. Do we wanna
It's got
believe
nothing to do with
what
7 inches.
you
Do we
paid
want
him
to
to do?
believe for a consultant's flag? And, as Andy says, we can't afford not to believe our own consultant.
Well, he couldn't auger underneath the wall, so, I mean,
I'll be honest, even if you knock the wall down, those rocks probably go 3 or 4 feet in the ground anyway.
Right. You're not gonna get the hydric soils within 12 inches, there's no chance. There's not a chance. The sediment that's been building up in the corner of that, the wall
Wall
probably,
for
probably goes
250
down,
years.
it probably goes down 3 feet.
At least, yeah.
I,
Most of the old walls.
my
do.
feeling is, I think everybody knows what my feeling is, but.
I'm gonna make a motion to issue an ANRAD based off of Brandon's flagging and Andrew's crew agreeing with Brandon.
I'm gonna second it.
don't you have to close a public hearing?
I'm gonna make a motion to close the public hearing of 20, and again, just to clarify, this is only for the ANRAD for 23 Jones. I'm gonna make a motion to close the public hearing for 23 Jones Road. Need a second if anyone's in.
Second.
All those in favor?
Motion to
Aye.
issue an ORAD.
No, no,
Closed.
close the public hearing.
Yeah, are you gonna issue?
I, I, don't wanna close the public hearing until we have Brandon here.
This is regarding to close the public hearing. That's, my feeling is that Brandon's not here to defend his
Yes.
thing. Yet, by the same token, you guys are only, as far as my knowledge on this, you guys are only concerned is where that flag is hanging. That somebody else is gonna put that lot line somewhere else on there. It should be accurate, they need to, and he's done that. He's certified that the line is there. I still question whether, that, wetland flag is hung accurately. And it could be one way or the other, but I'm not certain that it's, where it's supposed to be. And I think we're talking one flag. It could be several flags that are involved here.
I don't know, can you appeal to DEP?
I could.
Specifically
Solves
called
that
out
problem.
flags S,
Solves that problem.
Husband, I don't have time to do it.
specifically calling out flags, the ones, these are the ones he hung as SCC, 46B, 46C, 46D. Does that make a motion to issue an inaccurate order? Oh, this is, yeah, just those specific flags. If the applicant requests that the commission close the public hearing and issue an order of conditions, and you are still not satisfied about the accuracy of the survey in relation to the wetland flags and property line, I recommend making a motion to issue an inaccurate order of resource area delineation and calling out those flags. If this was an issue where the field placement of the flags was the only issue, I would recommend that the applicant only file an appeal with DEP. In this case, I don't see what good that would do, because it is my opinion that DEP will mostly be focusing on the field placement of the flags, which no one is contesting at this time. The appeal would most likely have to be a joint DEP bylaw appeal, where the bylaw appeal would be for section 12.5D, where the applicant rejects the need for a survey peer review because they believe their work is accurate and a peer review unnecessary, and where the requirement for a peer review is unlawful. The bylaw appeal would be done in Superior Court.
Oh, you got Brandon's opinion there.
Did we close the public hearing, or is it still open?
We haven't voted on it yet. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
How many ayes? 3? 4?
4.
I said aye.
I say no.
Okay, so 2 noes.
No, 1.
1. 4 yeses, 1 no. Zach can't vote,
Zach
I
right?
can't vote, so.
Okay, so 4.
Yes.
Yes.
4 yes, 1 no.
So now what?
Now you get to vote on the NRED.
Is the majority, right, for public?
You
Yes.
just close the public hearing, there's really no more discussion unless it pertains to the decision, correct?
Make a motion to issue an ANRAD for 23 Jones Road.
Second.
All those in favor?
No, right?
Aye.
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 Oh, I'm sorry, make a motion to issue an ORAD.
Okay, what's the vote?
3-2.
3-2?
No. Who's,
I said no.
you said no?
Mike said
Okay.
no. Yep.
Okay.
So it's 3-0-2, right?
Okay.
Did I give you the sheet to sign?
Yes. Oh, wait a minute, it's my, yes, you did.
Should be there. I don't have it here.
It's here. Alrighty.
Joyce, hang us up. Jack Sheehan, one more time. Thank you for your thoughtful consideration. This is a tough call. Travis, it's just the way things, things get tight sometimes, so. I'll speak up if I see it, so that's what I did.
Thanks, Jack. I would just say on the record, I think part of the reason so much of this went back and forth, and Travis is great to work with, you're always hands-on. Where so much stuff was wrong out of the gate, it just made everyone, including Brandon, including your team, it just wasn't a good feeling up here.
I've had conversations with board members about trusting a stamp. That's my thing. I know nothing about it. I should be able, if that thing's stamped, it's done. And that was, with my own eyes, and I know nothing, was so far off. And that's what I think, this was a big snowball
Yeah,
with that, big time.
that stuff is out of my control, the wetland flagging, we locate where those are hung.
Right.
Obviously, when I was out there that day, you can see standing water there, there's
Right,
no question,
right.
Well, there has to be 2 out of 3.
No, there was.
Standing water is not the only one.
No, there's vegetation.
Yeah, there's
There's
vegetation,
obvious.
it was
Right.
obvious, yeah.
So now it goes back to planning board.
No, you
Well, they've
can't,
already approved it. You're all done.
He just said no.
No, they're done.
They're done.
It's done.
So they,
They've
Based-
complied with the plan.
so the next step is to go to build would be to come in and for an order.
I think there are some issues with planning board.
No, it's a buildable lot now. No, it's done. That's it. It's
Not
done right.
not until the crossing's approved.
Well,
Well, there's no, we don't need to cross though.
I don't think you have enough.
You don't need to cross?
We've done soil testing up front.
there's a lot of land now.
Yeah, they could put the house at the top of the hill there. Well, it's
I thought
rotten.
so.
They-
walking
They
it.
could sell
Mark-
the lot and they could cross, I'm not telling you one way or
Yeah.
the other, I
Yeah.
just don't know.
It's bony up top, though.
How much frontage?
50 feet.
That's a retreat lot.
Retreat lot.
Good night, folks.
Good night, Jack.
Good night, Jack.
What's your favorite time of night, guys?
Anything else?
You think we're done?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor?
Thank you for your time.
Have a good night, Travis.